They say that long ago, before the white men carved the plains with their iron wheels, a shadow was born among the Dakota tribes, a man whose soul was split between the living and the dead. His name was Wakantahi, the shaman of the Red Wind. He was known for speaking with crows, walking through fire without burning, and calling upon the spirits of his ancestors to heal the sick and punish the wicked. But one winter, the spirits whispered something that would change everything. They said the child of Wakantahi, his only son, was destined to unite the tribes and restore the sacred balance of the world. The boy carried in his blood the mark of the Ancient Ones, a gift and a curse. When the settlers came, hunger followed them. They took the land, the rivers, and the sacred burial grounds. And one night they came for the boy. 4 white men from the trading post, drunk, greedy, and cruel, entered the village. They believed the shaman's son had a stone that could heal any wound. When Wakantahi awoke, he found his wife covered in blood and his son gone. That night, he painted his body in ashes, covered his face with crow feathers, and walked into the snow with nothing but a drum and a knife carved from bone. The storm rose like the breath of the gods. And under that crimson sky, Wakantahi became something else. Not man, not ghost, but the spirit of blood. At dawn, the wind carried the screams of the men who had taken his child. The first was found impaled on a totem near the river, his eyes removed, his mouth filled with black feathers. The second had his heart placed upon a burning stone, as if offered to an invisible god. The third man was found days later, hanging from a tree, his skin marked with strange symbols, words from a language no settler could understand. And the fourth was never found. But at night, the crows gathered above the forest, and the settlers swore they could hear his voice echoing among the branches, begging for forgiveness. The massacre became legend. The army came and burned the Dakota village to the ground, claiming it was the work of savages and demons. But the old people knew the truth. They said the shaman had not died. He had crossed into the spirit world, carrying the souls of his enemies with him. From that day on, every full moon, the snow around the burned village turned red. The crows returned, circling the ruins, as if guarding something or someone. And when the wind blew from the north, it carried a whisper: the blood returns home. Years passed. The land healed, or at least pretended to. The settlers built new towns over the ashes of the Dakota fields, churches rose where the sacred drums once echoed, and the name Wakantahi was whispered only by the oldest among the tribes, in fear that the wind might hear it. But evil never disappears. It only sleeps. In the summer of 1891, a man named Reverend Harris came to that same region, preaching to cleanse the land of pagan spirits. He ordered that every old site of worship be destroyed. One of those places was a mound near the river, where the natives said the last of the old shamans was buried, the resting place of the spirit of blood. When the workers struck the ground with their shovels, a red mist rose from the soil. The men coughed and laughed, thinking it was clay dust. But the smell? It was not earth. It was iron. It was blood. That night, the Reverend's camp went silent. The next morning, their horses were found torn open, their entrails laid out in perfect circles. And in the middle of it all, Reverend Harris sat upright, eyes open, mouth filled with black feathers. The locals said they saw crows covering the sky at sunrise, thousands of them, swirling above the mound as if performing a ritual of mourning. From that day, no one dared to touch that land again. Decades turned into centuries, but stories like this never die. They hide inside the soil, inside the bloodlines of men who think they are free from the past. Children in nearby towns were told never to wander near the old Dakota Valley. They said the air there was heavy, that you could hear the heartbeat of the earth itself. Some hunters spoke of finding animal carcasses arranged in strange patterns, as if someone or something was trying to speak through the dead. But the old spirits are patient. They wait for the right blood to return. And that happened one autumn in the early 2000s when a team of archaeologists arrived from the university. Among them was a young man named Daniel Crow, a researcher fascinated by Native American mythology. He wanted to separate the legend from the truth. On the first day of digging, they found bones, human bones, marked with circular carvings that looked more like symbols than wounds. The others joked, but Daniel felt watched. The air was too still, and the wind whispered through the grass as if speaking in tongues. That night, as they set up camp, the fire crackled in a strange rhythm. It sounded like a drum. Many winters had passed since the disappearance of Wakante. The tribes had scattered, the rivers had changed their course, and the names of the old ones had faded into silence. Yet on nights when the wind howled from the north, the elders would gather around the fire and tell the story of the shaman who crossed the threshold of the living. They said Wakantahia's spirit had never found rest, because the blood he spilled had not been offered, it had been taken. And what is taken without permission never sleeps. Each generation was warned, do not call to the crows, do not speak to the wind, and never touch the ground where the blood once fell. But man forgets. A century later, a group of settlers built their homes near the old Dakota territory. Among them was a hunter named Elias Ford, a man who laughed at superstition and made his living killing the animals that the natives once called sacred. One night, during a hunt, Elias found something strange buried halfway in the earth, an old staff wrapped in black feathers and burned markings. He thought it was a relic worth money. When he lifted it, the wind stopped. Not a single sound of bird or beast could be heard. That night, the fire inside his cabin lit itself. His wife woke screaming, claiming she had seen a shadow at the foot of their bed, a man covered in ash, eyes white as snow, blood dripping from his hands. Elias didn't believe her. The next day, he went into the forest to prove nothing was wrong. But the crows followed him. First 1, then 3, then 100. The sky turned black, and from deep within the trees, he heard it, a drum. Slow, heavy, ancient. When Elias ran home, everything was silent. His wife and son lay upon the floor, their bodies placed in a circle of ash. In the center burned the shaman's staff, without fire. In the village, they said Elias had gone mad and fled into the desert, where he was found weeks later, kneeling, whispering words in a tongue no one could recognize. When he died, his eyes were still open and white. After that, no one dared approach that land again. The trees grew twisted, and the crows never left. Travelers swore they could hear drums in the distance, even in broad daylight. But stories have a habit of returning when the moon is full. 2 centuries later, a new team of archaeologists came to that same valley, searching for traces of the Dakota culture. Among bones and fragments of pottery, they found something that wasn't on any record, a stone marked with what looked like dried blood. One of them, a young researcher named Daniel Crow, took the stone for study. He was a distant descendant of native blood, though he never believed in superstition. He laughed when the elders warned him that the land was cursed. That night, he dreamed of a man painted in gray, holding a child wrapped in a blanket. The man looked at him and whispered, "You carry the blood of my son." Daniel woke drenched in sweat. The sound of drums still echoed in his head. He thought it was his imagination, until he opened the curtain and saw a crow perched on his window, staring straight at him. In the following days, strange things began to happen. The recordings from the excavation picked up voices speaking in a forgotten language. And every night, just before midnight, the fire of the camp flickered, shaping the smoke into the silhouette of a man with white eyes. The massacre of Wakantahi had awakened once more. On the 3rd night, Daniel decided to sleep inside the excavation tent, surrounded by the relics they had found. He wanted to prove to himself that nothing supernatural was happening. He lay down with the recorder running, the sound of crickets mixing with the stillness of the prairie. Around midnight, the wind turned cold, and the recorder began picking up something. A rhythm, a drumbeat, slow, steady, like a heart buried deep within the ground. Daniel woke up. Everything was dark, but the sound came from outside. When he stepped out, he saw dozens of crows perched on the wooden stakes around the camp, all staring at him in silence. The wind stopped. Then, in the middle of the field, a single flame appeared, a bonfire where no one had lit one. Before it stood the figure of the shaman. Not a ghost, not a shadow, but a man made of ash and memory. His skin marked with tribal sigils, his eyes white, reflecting the moonlight. Daniel tried to run, but the crows took flight, forming a circle around him. The spirit spoke, his voice rising from the ground itself. The blood returns home. The shaman raised his hand. In his palm was the same symbol carved on the ancient staff Elias Ford had found a century ago, a ring of fire with 4 lines, for the 4 men he had killed to save his son. Daniel fell to his knees. The air grew thick, and the drumbeat quickened. He saw flashes of memories that weren't his: the massacre, the scream of the child, the desperate eyes of Wakantai. When he opened his eyes again, the spirit was before him, holding the same blood-stained stone they had unearthed. Wakantai pressed the stone against Daniel's chest and whispered, "The debt ends when the blood is remembered." Then the fire went out, and silence returned. The next morning, Daniel's colleagues found him lying on the ground, alive but unconscious. No burns, no wounds, only ash markings on his hands and face, like ancient war paint. When he woke, he remembered nothing, but something in his eyes had changed, a pale, ghostly whiteness, almost imperceptible, as if part of him had stayed behind. He quit the university and vanished into the Dakotas. Years later, hunters spoke of a man seen walking the hills at dusk, carrying an old staff and talking to crows. They said he offered prayers to the sunset, drawing symbols in the dirt with ashes and animal blood. When asked his name, he would only reply, "I am the keeper of voices." No one ever doubted the legend again. Today, the valley where it all began is known by the natives as the land of the weeping spirit. No animals pass through. No wind blows. Only the faint echo of a drum, beating an ancient promise. The blood returns home. And if you ever walk those hills under a full moon, you might see him too. A man painted in gray, surrounded by crows, eyes white as snow, guarding the spirit of his son and the price that blood demanded. Because in the forgotten lands of America, not all ghosts rest. Some are still watching, waiting,